are listening to a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast that tells the stories of craft beer in Minnesota and beyond. So kick back, relax, and grab a cold one. The show starts now. Hello, my name is Dan Bobian, and I write, produce, and host a One Pint Stand. I'm ecstatic that you're listening. This episode of a One Pint Stand is proudly sponsored by First Draft Tap Solutions, a local Minnesota line cleaning business with a personal touch. On this episode, I head to the basement of Thomas Liquors in St. Paul to chat with Nicole Collins-Kwong, a licensed wine educator and owner of My Wine Truth. Nicole's easygoing demeanor and encyclopedic knowledge of wine make this sometimes intimidating beverage accessible and enjoyable for everyone. So, this is going to be a recurring series of episodes about wine that will be interspersed with the typical craft beer-centric episodes that you know and love. So let's head down to Thomas Liquors in St. Paul for my wine conversation with Nicole Collins-Kwong. Cheers. Welcome to another on-location episode of a One Pint Stand. I'm your host, Dan Bobian. Today, I am at Thomas Liquors in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we're going to talk about wine. I'm so happy to be joined by an absolute font of accessible wine information, Nicole Collins-Kwong. Nicole, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Dan. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So before we start off and really do a deep dive and turn into full-on cork dorks, why don't you tell me what you do here at Thomas Liquors? What is your official wine certification or title? I know in beer there's Certified Cicerone, Master Cicerone, Advanced Cicerone, and then some people just call themselves, 9 to 5, 16-ounce curlers. But what is your wine title? And I want to know, if you remember, what was the first wine that you remember really liking and kind of sparking your interest in wines in general?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone has their wine virginity story of what really got them going and opened their world to wanting to learn more about wine. Maybe I'll start with that because that kind of will lead us into how I got here. It was I actually worked in a liquor store in college. Didn't know anything, just kind of was around it and was intrigued. Tried a few things here and there. And then my girlfriend and I, she would take me to this little wine shop in the neighborhood we lived in, and they had really nice wines. We fell in love with this one by a winemaker, Hendry, and it's in Napa Valley. It's a very small family-owned winery in the south end of Napa Valley, and that was our special occasion. One of us had a birthday. This is all before marriage, kids, life, and everything.
Sure.
We'd splurge. It was probably $25, but it was a lot back then. So we would drink that on special occasions or girls' nights, and then a few years later, got married. My husband and I went to Napa for our honeymoon because I was like, I dig this wine thing. Let's go to California for our honeymoon. He was all about it. And I had to visit Hendry. I was like, this is the only wine that I really know of good wine. And we visited them, and it was unlike any wine tasting experience I'd ever been to in my short experiences at that point.
Sure.
And since they take us on a tour of the vineyards, and then we sat down and they passed the bottles family style at a table. So we got to pour our own samples. The one of the winemakers was the one doing it. Looked like a farmer, very rustic, but not knowledgeable. And the wines were incredible. They had this library of wine behind them. And they said that's their family selection, what they keep, what they want to age, what they want to see how it evolves. And I said, well, I'm on my honeymoon. It was actually my birthday that day too. And I said, any chance I could buy something out of there, for a keepsake? Because I really love your wines. And the guy was like, oh, nobody's ever asked that before. I guess I don't think we would know what to do. I said, oh, that's okay. It's okay. I felt like he was a little offended. And we started walking around the library. He's kind of showing us the different bottles. And then he just hands me one. And he said, you were nerding out about the Zin, right? The Block 28 Zin? And I said, yeah, I love that. He's like, here you go. Happy birthday.
That's incredible.
It's yours. Yeah. And I was just goosebumps then. And every time I think about that story, I get it too. Because he just handed it to me and no questions, no money. And he just kind of smiled. And he goes, I have a feeling you're going to be a good customer. We've been in their wine club ever since.
Perfect.
We get three shipments a year. So that was kind of my entry into the wine world of I'm hooked. I love it. Yeah. I love this winery. And then I've just been learning since, hitting up wine shops, learning from the reps that are pouring on tasting bars. And I started getting certifications back in 2017, 2017.
Okay.
I did my first course. It's not offered anymore. It was at St. Paul College. But it was like the equivalent of a WSET level 2,
Okay.
which is offered in the Twin Cities. Loved it. And at that point, I was in corporate America, and I knew I didn't want to be there forever. So I thought, I'm going to figure out how to get into this wine world. I'm not in a big hurry. We'll figure it out. I had small kids. Then the pandemic hit. So we just kept plodding away, learning, drinking.
Yeah.
And then in late 2023, I went for my WSET level 3. So that's...
So WSET, what does that stand for?
So that stands for Wine and Spirits Education Trust. It is one of 2 main paths you can take for wine education.
Okay.
This one is based out of London, and it is more business retail focused.
Okay.
Whereas others may have heard of the Court of Master Sommeliers, and they are also known as the Court, and they offer certifications that are more geared toward hospitality. So restaurants.
Okay.
Things like that.
All right, that makes sense.
So I chose the W-Step path because they had programs here in the Twin Cities. The Court does too, but they're not as easy to find. But I knew people that had done it, and it sounded like a great program, and I knew I wasn't going to work in a restaurant. So I followed that path. The level 3 took 3.5 months. It was extremely intense. Very deep knowledge that you learn about regions, laws, varietals, how to taste, how to blind taste. And when I finished that, it was kind of then, okay, now I just want to wait until the right moment to get out of the corporate life and find my path in. So I started thinking about maybe doing my own side business just for fun, because I had a lot of people that always asked me to come and, can you put together a little wine lineup with our tapas dinner with friends?
Yeah.
Or, we want to have a backyard party and we want to feature sparkling wine. Could you come talk about how sparkling wine is made? And so I'd done that many times for fun. And I thought, I'll just go get the license, because you need a special license to do it legitimately.
Okay.
And insurance and all this stuff. I was like, I'll get that. Oh, let's work on branding. Okay. So I built this little brand, worked with someone to get a website, and I was like, I'll start marketing it. So it's called My Wine Truth, which is kind of an offshoot of the phrase in vino veritas, which I have tattooed on my arm here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's in wine there's truth is just like a cool phrase that stuck with me of, everyone has different experiences with wine. Everyone has different tastes, preferences.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and different stories that they get from it.
That saying is almost, in my mind, a big reason why I was really excited to sit down with you, because I think that there is this, and we'll get into this further later, but like wine has a certain connotation around it. But I think it's like if you can get in and get just some knowledge, you'll realize that no, there's a wine kind of for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, I used to walk into shops and feel so intimidated. I would like avoid eye contact with the clerks, because I thought, I don't want them to ask me questions or talk to me, because I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to talk about wine.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what prompted me to go get some education and learn a little bit more for my own knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm in the business, and I ended up working here because I just was a great customer forever. I loved the shop. I'd been coming in here. I live 8 blocks away.
Perfect.
My husband and I, our favorite Friday tradition has been 4:00. They always have someone on the tasting bar. We'd walk or drive up here.
Yeah.
Have a couple tastes, grab our supplies for the weekend, and get home before our kids got off the bus.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, and run into neighbors and everybody. So it just made sense when they needed help here, and I was looking for something. It just was a perfect fit.
And Thomas Liquors has been around a long time. Before I left this morning, my wife and I, we were talking, and we got married back in 2003, and we bought all our liquor from here. We got married at St. Thomas, and she's like, as a joke, you should just mention that, we've been telling people to, try to get their liquor for their wedding at Thomas Liquors, because all of it included, I think, was $546 back in 2003, and we had like 2 kegs, a bunch of beer, a bunch of wine, and spirits. And so obviously, I don't know if we might need to do, I'm not a mathematician, so I don't know how to do the inflation, but great neighborhood spot, been here forever. If you haven't been into Thomas Liquors, whether you are a wine person, a beer person, a bourbon person, I mean, spirits, everything, they have a great selection, and it's very well curated. And there's a lot of experts here that will kind of talk you through how to make sure you're getting the best thing that you want to have. Because it's about, I think, liquor store shopping just like going into a brewery or a winery or a wine bar, it's about the experience. And, there's some places you can go and it's, you need to pop a couple aspirin before you walk in there because you're going to leave with a headache because it's so annoying. But this place, Thomas Liquors in St. Paul, is a very, very pleasurable experience when it comes to liquor stores. So,
yep. People come in from other parts of the Twin Cities and, we get a lot of neighborhood folks. And I mean, every shift I work, I see a neighbor of one of my kids' friends' parents. But then other people that come in from other parts of the Twin Cities, like we had some in for a special event down here in the basement last week, and we live in Bloomington, but we tell everyone this is our community shop because it feels like such a community, and we feel so welcome here, and we love being part of it.
And that's great. I think that's really, that's not easy to do. And there's so many choices. Just like there's so many different bottles of wine on the shelf, there's so many places to go shop for wine. And when you find something where you do feel part of a community, I think that makes you want to kind of keep coming back. Kind of similar to your winery experience, Hendry. The person was like, I think you're going to be a great customer. I wonder if he would have been like, okay, well, I'll sell one of these, bottles to you. But like the fact that he just gave you a bottle and could see like the interest and passion, I think that's like, if you see that interest in someone, kind of like pay it forward, give them a little nudge in that way. And it seems like all these years later, that's still a very important story for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will be for sure. And I like to do that with people here. I see people walking in and that look on their face that they want something. They don't really know what they want. They don't know how to find it, and they don't want to be judged.
Right.
So I find that so important and so satisfying when I can gently approach someone and say, is there anything I can help you find? Do you have any questions? I can, point something out.
Yeah.
And when they open just a little bit, I jump in and I really make them feel comfortable and try to show that, I don't know everything either. And I'll tell you what I do know and maybe ask you a few questions and help you find something.
I think I could tell when we were kind of talking about coming up with the outline for what we wanted to talk about. And my hope is that this will be kind of like a semi-regular recurring episode because there's so much to talk about. But I could feel like as a teacher, I know the importance of trying to break down that barrier of insecurity. And, if students, I always say there's no such thing as a dumb question, but, with teenagers, there's different levels of comfort with asking a question. So like, I could tell that you're just like, oh yeah, this is very, there's no judgment. There is no such thing as a stupid wine question. I'm going to ask a bunch of them, but you're going to answer, and this is going to be great. There's going to be so much good information. So, where does one start, with wine? I think that, for me, I remember I've always associated wine with either like a fancy dinner or a special occasion. And it always seems to me to be a little bit more buttoned up, a little bit more stuffy than beer. Beer is, just like wine. You could spend a lot of money on beer. There's beers for very special occasions. And then there's, the lawnmower beers, the shower beers, the softball beers, that you don't need to think about. Mm-hmm. You just crack them. The only question is, are the mountains blue? So on the can. So, how does, so for somebody like me, I like wine, but I don't know what I'm doing. When you see somebody like that, how do you kind of start breaking down that wall, that kind of intimidation factor that wine can have?
Yeah. Well, first of all, like you said with beer, that exists in the wine world. There are patio wines. I literally have one of those shower holders in my bathroom for a wine glass.
Yeah.
I've never actually used it, but I got it as a gift one day and I put it up. I always think about someday I'm gonna put a glass of wine in there and drink it while I shower.
Yeah, that's.
But there's I play softball and I brought canned sparkling wine last night, for my softball game because nice. I enjoy beer once in a while, but I'm like, I want my softball wine.
Yeah.
So it exists, and there's price points all across the spectrum. There's styles of wines that you can drink on their own or with food, or for special occasions. I do think most meals can be complemented and made better with wine. I think beer and spirits probably can do that in different ways too. I just am not an expert on those. But food is my number one way to start. So try wine with food.
Okay.
Try different types, but that's actually not on my list of how do I start. But it was a great little preemptive one. Number one, I already talked about it a little bit, is ask your wine shop staff. Talk to your staff.
Yeah.
Get to know them a little bit. Find somebody you feel comfortable with. I promise we are not here to judge. So there's nothing more that we enjoy than helping a curious customer that's truly curious and wants to try something. So ask a few questions. We'll take the time. I promise we'll have time to work with a customer on that. My next tip, and I can't stress this one enough, if you live in the Twin Cities, which I'm guessing most of your listeners do, there are a lot of great wine shops, and hit up the free tasting bars. That's what I used to do before I worked in the industry, and sometimes you could hit 2 of them in a night, depending where you live.
Plot it out. Come up with your Google Map route from work to home, and just kind of bing, bing, bing.
Like Thomas, we always do them from 4 to 7 on Fridays.
Okay.
I think so. I'll show some love here for my fellow wine shops. So Solo Vino over on the Cathedral Hill area, they usually have them on Fridays too, and they start a little bit later. I think they don't start till 5 or 6, and they go later. Wine Thief and Ale Jail, also in the neighborhood here. They almost always have Friday tastings. Over in Minneapolis, South Lindale.
I was going to say, how about the folks on the western side of the world?
I'm St. Paul biased, if you can't tell.
Well, this is St. Paul Bias podcast, of course.
South Lindale Liquors is another great one. They have, and they have sit-down stuff too, and I think things on tap you can sample. France 44, they usually do theirs on Saturdays. They have reps come in, and they always have great samples. Cork Dork, I don't know what their schedule is for tastings, but they're a great little shop over by Lake Nokomis.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, Henry and Son, it's a little further. I know they specialize in natural wines. That's like Minneapolis, Golden Valley border. That's a great little shop. These littler shops that are more focused on nuanced wines, they almost always want you to taste things and learn, and they're very happy about that. So hit up those tastings, try things, just kind of try to make mental notes of what you like, pick up a few bottles, try them at home with your food, and see what you think.
And I'm gonna say this, and I hope this isn't like, this is not news, but when you are shopping for wine, go to the independent places. Yes, you might save some money by going to the big box stores. Total Wine. But you're going to have a horrible experience, and you will not get that. You're just a number there. Their whole thing is volume. Here, when you come into Thomas Liquors, you're a customer, an individual, somebody that they want to help. Your dollars mean more at an independent place, and you're going to find a better selection. So that's just the plug I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, and if I can add on just a little bit about why that's
you're gonna add on a lot.
I'm just gonna
just not add. I offer very little for expertise on this topic. So
that's a great point though, because not only are you supporting a family-run business a lot of times, or just small businesses, shops like ours and these other ones I just mentioned, we have really great relationships with our suppliers, and we work with some of the smaller distributors that I think take a lot more time and care and thought and bringing in and importing, or working with even domestic winemakers for really thoughtful wines and really great wines that a place like Total Wine can't get, because they need big volume. They're looking for big volume at low prices, and these little niche winemakers in all parts of the world, they're working with the smaller importers, the smaller distributors. Mm-hmm. And so we have some amazing relationships with our distributors, and they'll help curate selections for us. They work with us on our club packs and selections to really make sure we're getting the coolest wines in the shop for our customers. So that's my plug for why we should all shop small.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's also just a general understanding of kind of like the whole ethos when you're a small business with a small distributor, a small winery. There's a certain way that a small winery probably wants their wines presented. And it's not just in a box on the ground where nobody's going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's also something for people who are listening to understand when you're thinking about like where you're going to buy your stuff. And that's true for craft beer. That's true for spirits. It's kind of everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my next tip for you, is find a couple of resources. So I have a couple to recommend. Well, one really, really good one to recommend, but follow your neighborhood shops on social media, and then find a book, maybe just one or two, or on Instagram. My favorite one to recommend for starters is Wine Folly. So it's
Folley.
Folly. Wine Folly. So that's the book. There's this really great book. It is very approachable for any level of wine drinker. It's organized in the beginning by just how to serve wine, how to pair wine, just what kind of glasses to use, and then it goes grape by grape. And each grape has like a page or two, and it's very like graphic. It's perfect for this kind of consumer nowadays who just wants quick bulleted information.
Yeah.
I just want the basics. I don't want to read 5 paragraphs. I just want to know what is Pinot Blanc and why should I drink it, or where does it come from, and what are the key styles for it.
Yeah.
And it has every single grape. Most there's thousands of grapes in the world, but it has probably 200 or 300 grapes in there. And then the back has a whole section on regions. So it has really great maps of Italy, France, Spain, U.S., all the different wine regions around the world. So you can really see where the wine is made. It's a great, and I know we're going to maybe talk about this later a little bit, but wine travel is really fun too. And it's a great way to look at where wine is coming from. You can kind of geographically put those together. So follow her on Instagram or pick up that book, the Wine Folly book, and you'll learn lots of information or have it at your fingertips.
I think that's great. When I think about, a resource for beer, there's a book called Tasting Beer. And it breaks it down just so intuitively. And that is just required reading for anybody who wants to even think about doing any of the Cicerone or beer judging exams. And it's a very thoughtful way. It's not cracking into a Harvard textbook. It's just makes it, that makes sense. But any resource, whatever you're interested, whether it's cooking, wine, beer, spirits, find a book and mark it up, highlight it, make your Post-it notes, and it can be really fun. And that can be kind of for me, that was then I started okay, now that I know a little bit about tasting beer, you go and do a build your own 6-pack or get together with some friends and everybody brings a different 6-pack and kind of talk about it. That's the fun part.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great segue, Dan. One of my other tips was to have a wine party, get some friends together.
Yes.
Have everyone bring something, get a theme, whether it's the same varietal from different places, or pick a region and everyone brings a wine from that region. Mm-hmm. Everyone does just a little bit of research, or do a blind tasting. Blind tastings are so fun,
Now, what is it, for those who don't know, what's a blind tasting?
A blind tasting is where you literally put a brown bag on your bottle and you pour it without, you usually need someone to help, or you randomize it. It's kind of tricky to get the logistics down, but everyone tastes it and has no idea what it is. Okay. So you look at it, you smell it, you taste it, and you're evaluating it without knowing anything about it. You don't know about the price, where it's from, what kind of grape it is, and you just kind of experience it that way, which is a really powerful way to taste wine.
Okay. Yeah, that's fun. I love doing that with all sorts of things. And it could just to take some of that bias away, because I'm sure you we all have our, when we know what something is, we have a preconceived, it's this winery, so it's going to be really good. Or I heard this winery wasn't so good, kind of removing all those preconceived notions.
My favorite story to tell about blind tasting is when I was in a tasting group. I'm in a couple that I try to make it to once in a while. And one was doing a theme on sparkling wine. I was like, oh, I love sparkling wine. Yes, let's go. And they said, bring the gamut from, Prosecco, basic level, cheaper wines, cheaper sparkling, to champagnes, and everything in the middle. Everyone brings something and try to make it varied. And this was a good sized group, so we had a lot to sample. Okay. And we got through the sampling, and everyone takes their notes, by themselves. And you come back together to talk about them and reveal. And somebody revealed, sure enough, they brought the Kirkland Prosecco, $7.99.
Interesting.
From Costco. And up until that point, I had secretly been buying that, and I would not admit it to anybody. And I used it in my Aperol spritzes. I wouldn't really drink it on its own, but mimosas or something for a good mixing sparkling wine.
Yeah.
Because once you put stuff into a sparkling wine, it kind of you're taking away a lot of the character of it. So it doesn't really need to be fancy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd always been a little bit ashamed of it. This wine nerd is drinking Kirkland Prosecco.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I tell people the story all the time now because I say, it's fine. Go buy Kirkland Prosecco. It's okay. Don't buy the Kirkland Champagne, though, because I did try that in a blind test up against a real champagne, and it failed miserably.
Okay.
But the Prosecco's fine.
Okay,
$7.99 for your cocktails.
This is great information.
And
Because
that's
I love Aperol Spritz, and I'm sick and tired of like, first of all, I don't drink enough of them, so like I buy the little kind of thing, but I'm like, if I go to Costco, I'll just get that. And $7.99, that's easy.
That's my only one rule you can break for not going to a small family shop.
Okay. Yes.
You can go get your Kirkland Prosecco.
That's the one time.
Yeah.
It's okay to do big box shopping.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. One of my other tips for you guys, if you're getting started or you want just to explore your wine life, visit a winery. And it doesn't have to be a trip. So I know travel would be great. And if you can go out to somewhere, to a more big distinguished wine region, do it. But we have a lot of wineries in Minnesota.
That's going to be my question. So when I think of Minnesota, I mean, it's cold. I know that there are some crops that grow well, but like, I mean, I guess my assumption when I think of grapes growing, I think of like a hillside in Italy that's like terrace. Well, oh yeah, we're down here. I should describe where we're at. We're down here in the basement of Thomas Liquors, and despite the fact that it looks like a bomb shelter, there's some really beautiful, picturesque, almost pastoral pictures of places that are wine locations. I'm seeing, trellises of grapes. Hills. Well, first of all, we don't have hills in Minnesota.
Not really.
You can't grow wine can't grow wine grapes on a speed bump. So where are the wineries in Minnesota, and how do they grow grapes here?
So just to clarify too, the hills aren't necessarily needed to grow grapes. It's that especially in warmer climates, the hills are helpful or cooler climates. So depending what kind of climate you're in, hills can give you either more sun exposure, which way they're facing. They can decrease the temperature if it's cool. If it's too warm, you can grow grapes up higher on the hillsides. It can help protect against frost, which settles down in valleys, but it doesn't settle on hills. There's a lot of benefits to having hills to grow grapes on, but you don't have to. Lots of grapes grow in the world on flat land. Minnesota is very cold. The main reason we can't grow European type grapes, so that's called Vitis vinifera. That's the rootstock, the name of it. Yeah, that can't survive the cold winters. So if it gets below, I want to say it's like 5 or 10 degrees or 20 degrees, those rootstocks will die. But we have Vitis lambrusco and Vitis, I can't remember the other names, but very scientific. We have different rootstocks that grapes grow on native here in North America and in this climate. And those kinds of grapes and hybrid varieties that we've made here can grow very well and survive those cold winters.
Okay.
The University of Minnesota actually has a very great agricultural program for winemaking, and they're helping develop new cold climate grapes. So like Itasca, La Crescent, there's a couple other, Marquette, Frontenac. I think they've helped.
I've heard of Frontenac and Itasca before.
And Frontenac Gris. There's a lot of different grapes that grow very well here, and winemakers are starting to get more serious about it. They've made wine or worked in other places in the world, and they came back and they want to make wine with native grapes here. Okay. There's some soil types here that work really well, and I know that there's a few wineries around the Twin Cities. A couple of my favorites, just to throw out some names. Rustic Roots up in Scandia is lovely. They're beautiful. That's the other thing. If you go to a winery, they're usually going to be very beautiful and like pretty and scenic, and they do a really, really nice job with hospitality. But the scenery up there is gorgeous. There are maybe some small rolling hills up in Scandia. Okay. They're making some really nice wines. Seven Vines is another one I just went to. Another great scenic location. They do offer tours. So if you want to go and watch the process or see the back room operations. Moose, that's another one of my favorites. So Mousse, Moose, like that's what the bubbles are called in a sparkling wine. Oh, okay. Yeah. And they also have a fun logo with moose ears. So it's kind of a throwback or a throw out to the, Minnesota moose culture. Yeah. But there's a woman winemaker there, Josie, that's making really cool sparkling wine. She specializes in sparkling. And I'm in her club. I go down there once a quarter to pick them up. Oh, fun. And she's using cold climate Minnesota grapes to make sparkling wines, which work really, really well.
Okay.
That's a great one. There's others around the Twin Cities or further out. I heard about one near Alexandria. I can't remember the name, but
Carlos Creek.
maybe that's it.
Yeah,
it's
I think
a newer
so.
one. There might be another one that, 'cause I think Carlos Creek has been around for a while.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
I think there's another one that's newer that is another like really serious winemaking operation. So check those out. You know, go plan an afternoon, bring a picnic, or some of them have food, and sample some wine.
Now, when I think of wine sampling, there's I know with beer, I've never been to a beer sampling where they're like, just swish it around your mouth and then spit it out. But that's kind of, in my, there's always like a dump bucket for those times when you get the Kirkland champagne. You want to, pass on this. But it was that that movie that came out in like the early 2000s with like Paul Giamatti.
Oh, yeah.
Sideways. And when Paul Giamatti's character is at the wine tasting, he just gets mad and he just takes the bucket and like it starts drinking out of it. What is the purpose, and is it allowed if you go to a winery tasting to like not
don't
spit
drink
it out?
the spit bucket? That's
I
not
figured
okay.
Don't be that guy or gal. I'm always just assuming that like people spit it out because they just don't want to get drunk. Is that why?
Yeah, that's 99% of it. Is if you're tasting wine critically, or you want to be able to taste more, or you need to drive or something.
Yeah.
Like I brought a tasting bucket down here for when we sample a couple wines here, because I've got a lot going on today. I'll probably swallow a little bit, but you spit it because you can't. It's a nice way to not get a buzz.
Yeah.
But it's also, if you don't really like the wine too, go ahead. And I will say too, spitting is hard.
Yeah, that's why I don't really like.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
And for the longest time when I was taking classes, we all had our own little individual spit cup, like a little plastic cup or something, or that we'd then pour it into the big bucket.
Yeah.
Because, doing a shared one is tough. But when you're at like a tasting bar somewhere and there's just one communal bucket, it's like looking at that and trying to think, how am I going to spit into that bucket without dribbling it all over myself?
I always just go, "Hey, an eagle!" They're like, "What was that?" Oh, never mind. It was a cloud.
I think some people are just born natural. They're amazing spitters. They're like a spittoon on the floor.
Mostly baseball players.
Yeah,
you see them all the time on TV.
But a great tip I learned, I saw somebody said once, was practice in the shower. Practice in the shower. You want to
with the
wine cup
with your wine, shower wine. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or just shower water.
Just shower water if you don't have your shower wine at the ready. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right.
But don't be embarrassed if you dribble. Everybody does.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I'm guessing. So you mentioned Rustic Roots is in Scandia. Seven Fines. Where's that?
They're in Delwood. Just past White Bear Lake.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then did you say where Moose is?
I didn't. That's in Jordan.
Southwest. Okay. Yeah.
Southwest, just past Shakopee.
Okay. Perfect. Where Minnesota largest candy store is.
In fact, we had to stop there last time because I told my kids, we're going to stop.
That place is a trip. They have so many things there.
It's insane.
Yeah.
That's going to require aspirin to go in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you've given some nice recommendations. So that was a big tip. Go to a winery, which is nice because I think on this beer podcast, my passion for beer came on my first visit to a craft brewery, and that kind of like sparked my interest, kind of similar to your experience at Hendry in California. So I think, just going to see, kind of like how the process is made. It's one thing to go to a liquor store and like hear about it, but like, I think when you go, you really do see like all the process, and that can kind of like really, really kind of spur on a passion for it. So I'm glad you said that. And I'm also glad to get some recommendations on places to go.
Yeah. I think wine is about those stories. It's about making the connection. And again, back to the whole truth thing and finding your own truth. And you might visit a place and develop a connection. You might have a special meal and someone just pours you whatever type of wine or a certain brand, and you develop a connection to that.
Yeah.
And that's going to carry and stick with it, keep those memories. It might not taste the same the next time you drink it, but it'll remind you of that. And I think those kinds of things are really powerful.
Okay. That's good. So here we are talking about wine. Let's talk about from once you find that liquor store, once you've made that connection, let's talk about like how to approach wine. Obviously, just like beer, there's different price points for different things. Is there, what store was it? Was it Trader Joe's that has the $5 chuck that people are like, hey, it's a good wine for $5? Your body language, your facial expression is telling me that might not be that might not be the case. So when we're talking about what you want to spend, I always think like, and maybe not now because of inflation and tariffs, but like $20 always seems like that seems to be kind of like a benchmark for spending. I'll spend 20, I know that you can find an okay bottle of bourbon for $20 if you're making like old fashions or something, or, if you want to spend $20 on a cut of meat, you'll probably be okay. Where's that point with wine where like, if you're willing to like, can somebody come in here with $20 and walk away with a decent bottle of wine?
There's a few. Yeah.
Okay.
There's definitely a few gems, and that I love that sweet spot. That's a lot of people's day-to-day wines. That's what they can afford. That's, what they want to spend, on a Tuesday, or just need something to sip with dinner. You don't want to spend a ton or overthink it. $15 to $20. You can get some decent wines here. We can get a few decent wines. In fact, one of the ones we're going to pour is $19.99, just under $20.
Okay, perfect.
But if you start to go up just a little bit, if you get into $20 to $25 or even up to $30, your quality is going to open, your spectrum's going to open quite a bit more.
Okay.
I don't think you really need to spend more than $30 to $35 max to get a great bottle of wine. Okay. Only if you really want a certain, like if there's a very specific style or producer that you want, then you're in that $35 to $100 bottle.
Okay, yeah. Seems like there's a lot of, that's interesting. Yeah. I was fully expecting you to say, no, if you're really willing to spend $50, your options improve. So at above 30, it's less about quality, it's more about kind of what are you looking for.
Very nuanced. Then you get into things like your listeners here. They're probably not as knowledgeable and don't care, quite frankly. If you don't care, and if you don't know the difference between some of those little villages and where they come from and the way the winemaker made it and how that has like a very subtle influence on the wine. Yeah. If you don't want to know that, or you don't have that knowledge, then like don't spend that money, Sure. I wouldn't. Yeah. But if you want interesting wine, you want to taste a variety and you want to learn about it, you can do that all for under $35 a bottle. See,
that's great to know.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an assumption that a lot of people have. It's like you need to spend more to have a really good experience.
No. And the other tip too, I know we do it here, and I think a lot of shops offer discounts on cases. So
sure.
Budget for it and plan on it. Go in and talk to your shop. Say, here's a couple things I've liked before. Can you make a mixed case for me of a variety of things? Oh, we do it all the time. People come in and they're like, I don't know what to get. Can you just help pick it out? Here's my price point. Here's the styles I like. I want this many whites, this many reds, whatever. We'd love to put together an assortment for you to try. And then you can come back and try them again or pick something different.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you've mentioned a couple times a wine club. Do you do... So tell me, what is a wine club? Can anybody join a wine club? And what are the pros and cons for that? Or if there's like... I think you said that Thomas does a wine club.
Totally. Yep.
Okay.
So we have one here. We actually just launched it a couple months ago. We were super excited. We've always had a monthly 6-pack that we put out for folks to just come and grab and go of our Cellar series. Okay. And then we converted it and kind of beefed it up, the whole operation, to offer different choices and make it more of a subscription. So folks can sign up and get 2, 3, or 6 bottles per month. So you kind of pick your price point, pick your selection level, and then you can add on a Psalms pick. So we have a special selection, a little higher end single bottle that you can add on to that. Okay. Every month you get the club pickup allocation, and then we also down here in this basement. It looks a little crazy now because we're in post-event status, but these tables and chairs and lights and things we have all set up to really make a really cool cellar experience.
Yeah.
So we move the tables out of the way and we have a pickup party where we have folks pouring wine on both sides. You can come sample other things to try.
Oh, cool.
Snacks, and then you can chat with your neighbors, your fellow wine enthusiasts, ask us, the shop folks. We love to mingle and chat with folks. So that's our wine club.
Fun. Yeah. Okay. I would imagine that that's really good for the people who once you get into wine, now I just want to try as many different kinds, varieties to really kind of hone in on those times when I want to spend $30 or higher.
Yep. And we'll put classic things in there like a Chianti, but a month or two ago, we had this amazing Turkish red wine. I was like, I never tried a wine from Turkey until we found that one, and we all fell in love with it here. We're like, we're putting that in the club. Like, how cool.
Cool.
And then customers can try it and see what they think.
Yeah.
They never would have reached for it probably.
Okay. Well, that's got to be fun for you, because I think it's like, I do get a kick of when, somebody tells me like, I don't really like beer. Sometimes I take that as a personal challenge. So I'm like, okay, I think you do. You just haven't had the right one yet. And then I'm sure you probably hear that a lot with wine. I don't like wine. Well, what are you basing that off of? Like, so once we've talked about cost, but, what are some other things to know when you're buying a wine, or just kind of trying to approach wine when it comes to cost? Obviously, that's probably one of the major things that you notice. But then I know, just like beer, there's a lot of words on the labels. There's a lot of numbers. Some of those, I know IPA, but I have no clue about different regions of wine. I know that when we were talking earlier, there's old world wines versus new world wines. I didn't know what that means. When I think new world wines, is that, wines you drink at yoga, the Namaste brand of wines. Maybe talk through some of those things to kind of, again, continue to help demystify maybe some of the preconceived notions that people might have about wine.
Yeah, it's very intimidating looking at the bottles. And I'll start with the old world, new world thing. So old world is a term that's very widely used in the wine industry. It just means the areas of the world that have been making wine for thousands of years. So mostly Europe, Eastern Europe, in that kind of area that has those native Vitis vinifera vines.
Okay.
There's a lot of debate where it originated. Was it Georgia? Was it Armenia? Iran? We just learned a lot about the island of Cyprus, and they've been making wine for thousands of years. And everyone kind of claims that we've been making it longer. No, we have. Egypt even. So all those early winemaking areas, old world, and then into, France, Germany, Austria, Spain. Those countries are all considered old world. And one thing to note about them, I think that this helps segue into the how they label things. They almost all label their wines by their region.
Okay.
And if you think back 1,000 or 2,000 years ago when they were making wine, they were only making it for themselves. So it was very, very micro located. So their geographies were just right there. They maybe neighboring villages or something. Who knows? But they just labeled it, or they called it, and when they started labeling things, probably they just called it by where it was from.
Sure.
And everybody knew that if you were picking up a wine in Gavi, that it was the Cortese grape,
Okay.
Because that's the only grape that they grow there, the only white grape that they grow there.
Okay.
Fast forward into New World. So New World would be anything else. So that's like the U.S., Australia, South America, South Africa, all these other parts of the world that all took all those winemaking traditions and have been making it their own in their areas. Okay.
Well, and also with growing conditions in certain climates. When I think about Cyprus, for example, very Mediterranean, I would imagine that there's there probably aren't any wine regions in
Norway. No,
okay.
Definitely
so
too
it's
cold.
too cold. Okay.
But Cyprus, you would think it'd be too hot, but they have some of the highest elevation vineyards in the world.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So they're growing it back to that the hill thing. So they're growing it on 3,000 foot hills that get cool enough. You know, you go up so far, and that temperature drops fast.
Yeah.
So they get the coolness from the altitude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess when I think of wine regions that I'm familiar with, I think of like Tuscany. I think of like the south of France, and then there's like the north of, isn't Burgundy in the north of France? Those are the three regions I'm familiar with.
You can find a lot of good wine in those regions.
Yeah.
But there's so much more.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing. So talk to me about like New World. Like, where are we talking? So for instance, let's just think about, you know, let's move outside of Europe and kind of like the Middle East, Mediterranean area. When we get on this side of the pond, like in South America, Central America, North America, where are some of the kind of wine growing regions that people should kind of look towards?
Yeah, and there's a lot, and some of them are going to be hit or miss what you can find, because the import export, the demand, the knowledge for it in our market may not be there, and so we may not see a lot of it, but some we do. South America is a great example. Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, those are probably the big ones in South America. All kind of. Chile and Argentina have some that are pretty high elevation, and so they can grow up into those closer to the equator latitudes. But for the most part, the climates down there, especially as you go further south, are really perfect for wine growing.
Okay.
So those areas have a lot of great wines, but again, they're using European grapes. You know, they grow, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc. They do Chardonnay. Chile is known for Carmenere, which was a French grape, but they have really made it their own in their own style.
Okay.
So those areas are really great to check out. Australia is another one that.
Oh, sure. Okay.
It is huge.
And that's considered New World?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Australia's New World. They've only been making wine a couple hundred years, just like the U.S.
Okay.
But they have a lot of little pockets of winemaking regions. It's incredible the amount of wine that they make, but we see so little here. So we
I was going to say, is Yellowtail? That's
sure is.
Okay, that's like she's laughing, folks. So that must be not the fancy kind.
That's kind of what our market has labeled Australia as.
Sure.
Like they're Yellowtail. They're
move away from Yellowtail.
Don't
if
get Yellowtail.
If you wanted to up your game, let's say you want to impress the neighbors, and you were thinking about serving Yellowtail. What's another? This is why I wish it was a video podcast, because there's all sorts of facial expressions happening here. But if you wanted to, we'll save the Yellowtail for another time. What's a locally findable Australian wine that people should look out for?
I hesitate to say a brand, but I'll tell you like a region, like McLaren Vale is a small little region. It's kind of the Napa of Australia.
Oh, okay.
They're growing great Shiraz and Cabernet there. There's other pockets, Eden Valley, Clare Valley, that are growing Riesling, like dry, minerally, really great.
I love Riesling. Yeah. Okay.
Riesling's amazing.
Yeah.
And Germany is obviously kind of the gold standard for.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Riesling.
I thought it was just like a German thing.
No, they're growing some really cool stuff in Australia, little cooler spots that have, some altitude and good soils for growing Riesling. Even just South Australia, it's like a general region. Like the Shiraz that's coming out of Australia, if you spend $20 on it, you're going to get something really, really great.
Okay.
I think most of the Shiraz in Australia nowadays is delicious.
Okay. That's good to know. So let's talk about North America, in the United States. I think this is when most people think wine in the United States, they think California, Sonoma Valley, where maybe, if you were challenging people to kind of like widen their scope of search, where in the United States are some good places to go for wine?
Yeah. I have a lot of opinions on California wine.
That might have to just be a single episode.
That could be a whole single episode. The first thing is, when you're looking at the label for a California wine, the more information that is on that label, the better. Okay. If it just says California, put it down, because that means that they're getting grapes from all over and that they are probably getting it from those really hot valleys that just grow mass quantities of easy to grow grapes and are processed with things and mass produced to get bulk wine.
Okay.
So the more information, the better. If it has a region of some kind, you don't even have to know what it is, but if you see a region on there like Santa Rita Hills, Santa Barbara, Napa Valley, even in Napa Valley, Sonoma, one of those bigger ones you might recognize, you're like, okay, that's a name that I recognize. That's a better choice. And if it has a sub-region in it, like Anderson Valley or I mentioned Santa Rita Hills, that's kind of a small one too.
Okay.
If it has those little smaller regions in it, you're going to get a really high quality bottle of wine.
Okay.
The problem with those is when you get those with the sub-regions and they're smaller areas and you know where they're coming from, they're estate sourced or made, they're really expensive.
Okay.
So California tends to get very expensive very fast with the quality scale. So that's where it's problematic as somebody starting with wine. I don't want you to not drink California wine.
Right.
Drink California wine. Drink the good stuff. But you're going to have to dish out a little bit more.
Sure.
So if you've got the budget for it, seek it out. We just had a winemaker here in the basement the other day, Whitcraft Wines, and very, pricey wines, but he does extremely low intervention, doesn't use filters or pumps, doesn't use any additional additives. I mean, everything about his is extremely hands-on, and the wine was great. But if you don't know and you're not into that kind of level of artistry to winemaking, it may not be worth it to spend that much. But I would say,
and that's the perfect example of when you do go above that price point.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the things you were talking about is like that nuance, that specific thing that you're looking for. Okay.
Go further north, though, into Oregon and Washington.
Okay.
I think Washington is a great place for folks to explore. They've got a lot of really warm valleys, Columbia Valley, Yakima Valley, like inland. And even though it's further north, they get a lot of sun, especially, in the growing region or the growing season. That can really help ripen those grapes. And they're making awesome red blends. So they do a lot of Cab, Merlot, Syrah, what other reds that they're growing up there, but they're definitely doing a lot of really cool red blends that are very interesting and tend to be fairly affordable.
When you say a red blend, what does that mean? And then are there wines that are not blended?
Totally. Yep. So when you look at the label, like we've got a label here that's a blend and it just says red wine. You have to look on the back of it to see, sometimes it'll tell you, some places, sometimes they won't. They'll just say this is a red blend and you got to go hunt to find out. But wines are blended for a lot of reasons, based on, winemakers' preference, style, what they can grow easily. Certain types of grapes offer more tannin or more fruitiness or, more finesse to the wine. And so it's just like this, it's their blank canvas. Winemakers just decide based on what they have available and what they like and what they want to grow, how they want to blend it. Yeah.
So far, in the United States, you've mentioned California, Washington, kind of like the West Coast.
And Oregon. Don't forget Oregon. Willamette Valley is amazing. So they're known for Pinot Noirs. They're cooler. They're closer to the coast, and the climate is a little bit cooler, so they grow cooler climate grapes like Pinot Noir.
Okay.
They do some Chardonnay, some Riesling, some Pinot Gris. Things that are in Willamette are great. They're kind of in between California and Washington, I would say, on that price scale. You can get some good values, but they get up there pretty quick on some of the higher end Pinot Noirs.
Okay. And so those are all located, if you're familiar with U.S. geography, those are all on the West Coast. Is that kind of like the only place in the United States to find like good wine?
Good wine? No, there's a couple other spots I would say. The Finger Lakes region is probably one of the more well-known ones on the east side.
Okay.
So it's upstate New York. I have not been out there yet, but it's high on my list. In fact, they have a Riesling camp there every year, and I applied this year, and I didn't get in.
Oh.
So next year, I'm going for it again next year.
Riesling camp.
But, Riesling.
That's interesting. What do you bring to Riesling camp besides your dump bucket and your favorite wine glass?
Yeah,
that sounds fun. I had a friend in college who went to calculus camp, and once I found that out, I just teased her about it relentlessly. It just was great. So Riesling camp, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, they take like 24 people, wine industry folks from across the country, bring them out there, and they do all these in-depth seminars and take you to wineries, and you just nerd out.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. But they make more than Riesling there, but they're known for really good quality Riesling.
Okay. And you said that was out in the Finger Lakes region?
Yep.
Okay.
Upstate New York.
Okay.
Yep. And then I know Long Island they have a little bit of a wine market. I don't think they distribute much. Virginia has a little bit, so some spots outside of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
By like Monticello, Monticello. I don't know how does Jefferson say that.
Oh, I
can't remember. Monticello?
I don't know. Monticello, Monticello.
We say Monticello, and I think they say Monticello.
Okay, yeah.
Our city in Minnesota.
Yeah.
In terms of there's another one in Michigan that's high on my list to check out near Traverse City.
Oh, sure, yeah, because they do a bunch of like they grow everything there. It must be perfect, like fruit, cherries, apples, like all sorts of stuff. So I'm guessing grapes.
Grapes, yeah, they've got.
Yeah, because I road tripped through there, and I don't know. I was driving by fields of. I think there were like tons of like trellises of grapes and just like all sorts of stuff. It was beautiful. Yeah. But yeah, I could imagine that being good.
That's a hot spot. I heard about Austin, Texas, outside of Austin a little bit. There's a little valley there that's making a lot of big, bold reds. Like they're able to grow some red grapes really well.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
My brother drove through there a year or two ago, and he's like, "Have you been here? Everywhere we drive, there's just wineries after wineries." I was like,
cool.
Adding that to my list.
Can you pair wine with barbecue? Of
course.
What would you do?
Oh, like a Shiraz or a Zin or
okay.
Or like even like a chillable red, like that Turkish one I was telling you about. It's good, slightly chilled. It's this native Turkish grape that nobody's heard of, but it would be great with barbecue. Okay, something rustic like a Gamay, a Beaujolais. Yeah,
we'll have to. That'll have to be our next episode. Just a deep dive into food.
Yeah,
and I'm just gonna bring like an Arby's beef and cheddar, a filet mignon, and we'll find one for each. Hey, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you're enjoying a One Pint Stand. My aim is to help spread the word about craft beer. Enjoying craft beer is a passion of mine, and I love chatting about it with other people. A One Pint Stand has a goal of helping breweries tell their stories. I love to get out and about in and beyond Minnesota to visit breweries, beer bars, and in this case, liquor stores to talk about wine. If you're also into those things, you probably want to keep tabs on the show. So go ahead and follow A One Pint Stand on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Mastodon, and I also started a TikTok account because I was tired of Charles calling me a boomer for not having one. I would also appreciate any and all positive reviews on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. This will help make it easier for other craft beer listeners to find us. If you want to be a supporter of the podcast with some of the extra change you find in your couch cushions, I've got a Patreon. There are 3 different monthly levels of support, and they're priced at $1, $3, or $5 a month. Now, if you pledge at the $3 or $5 monthly level, you get some pretty cool perks. So go to patreon.com and search A One Pint Stand to check it out. We are up to 26 supporters, and I am super happy about what that means for the show. Now, if you like reading about craft beer, you can check out my written work on aonepintstand.com. I love to write, and this is where you will find a lot of written content that covers both the local craft beer happenings and my craft beer travels. I truly appreciate you listening and taking time to share our stories. Now, before we head back to the show, I want to talk about this episode's sponsor, First Draft Tap Solutions. Brett Erickson runs the show, and he uses his over a decade-long experience as a head brewer to provide a uniquely hands-on approach to line cleaning, draft installation, and technical support. If you're looking for a quality experience with somebody who will get the job done right, give First Draft Tap Solutions a pour. To get in touch with Brett, you can email him at firstdrafttapsolutions@gmail.com or give him a call at 612-839-5304. Brett has a manageable number of clients to ensure that he is available to give you an amazing level of service. So check out First Draft Tap Solutions for all your line cleaning and draft installation needs.
How about a beer?
Okay, I think we've talked about how to read the wine label. We've talked about budget and cost.
Yep.
I think Are we ready to
We should taste some wine.
dive in
to
get ready and talk about like tasting? Because I know I've got a lot of, I know just with like beer vocabulary, there's certain things that you want to know. There's certain elements, you know, you don't just like crack open a can and shotgun it. There's certain things oftentimes people will tell you if you're going to really want to understand a beer, you need to pour it into a glass. So, and I know that there's different glassware for different beers. I'm assuming that's the same thing for wine. You know, I've seen champagne is kind of in a flute. We've got kind of bigger, rounder glasses here.
You know, yeah, there's recommended glassware, and there's classes out there and seminars you can take or things you could probably watch on YouTube that talk to you about it. And I did do a side-by-side once of a Pinot Noir in a Pinot Noir glass. There's this special big round bowls with like a little tulip top versus like a smaller glass. And we had the same wine in both. You know, you swirl a little bit and smell and taste it. And it was different. I was surprised, to be honest. I thought that's a bunch of hooey. That doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay.
So there is a little bit of an impact. Generally, white wine, you want to put in a smaller glass. It doesn't have to be a huge glass. But a red wine, especially a bigger red wine, it needs a little more area to open.
Okay.
So bigger, wider rim is usually helpful.
Okay.
Much to what you said about sparkling wine, champagne, and those flutes. They're fun. They're pretty. You see the bubbles. Those are for visual appeal.
Okay.
They actually totally take away the flavor of the wine because you don't get any of the aroma as you're tasting. So part of the tasting is the smell,
sure,
which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a sec. But if you're drinking a champagne or a sparkling wine, I'd put it in just a regular wine glass.
Okay, good to know.
Nothing fancy needed. You can save those flutes for a photo op
yeah.
if you want to do it in a picture. But
okay. So this is I wrote this down. The Villa Sparina. Is it Villa?
Villa? I think Villa in Italian.
Okay. And Gavi.
Gavi, yeah, that's the village.
Okay.
So Villa Sparina is the brand. Gavi is another one of those old world wines that it says the name of the village on it, where it's from, but it doesn't tell you anything. In fact, if you look at this whole label, it doesn't tell you anything on here.
Yeah, there's 3 words and then a symbol. Yep,
and it's a really cool bottle. It's a kind of more squat, fatter bottle.
Yeah,
that has like a longer neck on the top. That's something that they used exclusive to that area.
Okay.
People have asked me, like, does it matter? Like, what does it mean to have a certain size bottle, a certain style? You know, the Burgundy style is got the similarly little fatter bottom and then narrow taper top. Bordeaux bottles they're almost the same width the whole way to the top, a little more narrow. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Okay.
It's more of a tradition thing. So just certain areas have been accustomed to making them in certain size or style bottles. Like this one. This one's from this village in Piedmont. Cortese is the grape.
Okay.
Which is one of many, many hundreds and hundreds of Italian grapes that they make wine out of there. And this is one that's very popular in our store. It's $19.99, and it's delicious. Every time people taste it, like we've put it on our tasting bar for folks to sample, and they're always like, "I've never had something like that before, but I love it."
Yeah.
So it'd be fun. I thought it'd be a fun one for us to try.
And this is a white wine.
It's a white wine. And so the first thing you do when you taste, really just take a quick look at it. You know, is it deep color? Is it light color? This one's kind of lightish, not super light that you can't see through it, but it's kind of light, kind of like yellowish.
Yeah. It's very clear. I'm assuming because I mean, with beer, some beers hazy. You can see through and some are hazy and everywhere in between. Well, is it a bad sign if a white wine is cloudy? Does that mean there's they didn't filter the grapes or something?
It means.
Or
they
does
didn't
that
filter
mean
it,
it's
but
from
that's
the
okay.
Invergrove region of the wine, which is not good?
No, it's become more popular to not filter wines.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit more of the natural style, you know, to leave a little bit of sediment in there. It used to be a very unpopular. People wanted their clear, very, beautiful, perfect wines.
Yeah.
And now it's the more rustic style and a little bit more natural, less intervention. Leave that flavor in there. That adds to the body. It adds to the character. I
Is
think
that
it's
like
just a stylistic-
post-COVID, everybody started wearing soft pants and just said,
Yeah.
screw it.
Yep.
We don't care about sediment in our wine anymore.
No, just drink it.
Yeah.
But this one, the next thing you do is smell.
Yeah.
I take a good whiff. There's schools of thought on how to smell. I do a little of everything. So I do like a normal smell. Then I do like the little dog sniff.
Yeah. Yep.
That kind of pulls in certain aromas differently. And then you kind of do like a slow smell. Kind of breathe. You can even open your mouth a little bit when you do it.
Yeah, that's a tip I learned and it was crazy because I would always just like kind of like instinctively keep my mouth closed and just in smell through my nose. But then somebody was like, do it with your mouth open, and you get a totally different. You get way more.
Yeah,
It's like you're using a different organ to smell. It's kind of crazy.
I read this great book last year called Cork Dork. If anyone's nerdy about smells and aromas, this journalist decided to immerse herself in the wine world, especially with regards to aromas and smell.
Yeah.
And she did all kinds of great research and hands-on research herself, but you learn a lot about your sense of smell and how powerful it is.
Yeah.
And how it connects to emotions and experiences. Like if you smell something once, like you come back to smell it later, like you'll remember it.
Yeah. I'm very like my sensory memory is really strong. Like there's certain like aromas that will just like transport me back to an experience when I was 5 years old, which is so crazy. So how would you describe the smell on this Gavi Villa Sparina?
Yeah. I would, I think about the intensity first. Like how intense is the smell? I think it's like moderate, like medium. So
Okay.
kinda like
Yeah.
light, medium, pronounced is kind of the lingo some folks use. So I'd say medium. It's not too intense, but it's definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you put a wine glass up to your nose and you can hardly smell it.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes it jumps out of the glass at you. So it's kind of like, is it in between that, or is it one of those? I think it's right in between. I think it smells. So you want to think too, is it, you can get real basic. I'm not going to get super scientific. We're going to oversimplify some things here.
Yeah.
But think about the fruitiness. So you can think fruity, like vegetable, and then like other stuff. So is there
like a Sunny D commercial?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Sure. And when you think of fruitiness, like you think, does it have like, fresh fruit aromas to it? Like, and what kind? Like stone fruit. White wine wouldn't usually have berries, but maybe. Then citrus. So citrus is usually a common component in white wines. So you kind of first start to think, what kind of fruit am I getting on this? Is it really light fruit scented? This one isn't super fruity. It's probably more citrusy.
I was gonna say
Then
lemon.
Yeah, lemon. Lots of lemon on here.
Okay. Yeah.
Italian wines are not to generalize too much, but there tends to be a lot of lemon, like lemon rind. Think about like when you squeeze the rind of a lemon.
That's exactly what I thought.
Oil.
Yeah.
And then
is that due in part to like the region and kind of like the science of the soil? I know that one of the words is that I hear a lot in association with wine is terroir. And that is, what does that mean? It's even hard to spell. So
it's hard to spell. It's hard to say. And it's very, very vague. It means a lot of different things. Some people think it truly means like how the soils impact the wine.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually just reading an article about this the other day about how it really comes down to just somewhereness. It's just, it's the place. It's because the impact of the yeast in winemaking, the impact of how much water that vine gets, or what kind of nutrients are in the soil.
Okay.
Because the soil itself doesn't really connect to the end product of the grape. It's really how it all interacts with everything else in nature.
Okay, that's good to know.
And it's the winemaker, that has a big part of it. How they choose to pick, where they choose to plant it, how they make the wine, really impacts that sense of terroir. Like this style is distinct to this region.
Okay. With wine yeast, are there different like types of yeast? Because I know in beer there's like, there's ale yeast, there's lager yeast, and like under those umbrellas there's like all sorts of different ones.
Yeah, I don't know the specific names, but winemakers can either choose to use ambient yeast, so the yeast that's on the grapes and in the winery.
Oh, sure.
They're
Okay.
just floating around.
Yep.
I think you can do that with beer too,
Yeah.
to some extent,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of wine, especially these more natural, organic, biodynamic winemakers, are going to use the ambient yeast.
Sure.
Or you can use commercial. And
Okay.
I don't know the names of the strains, but there are several out there that are most common.
Okay.
But that's a good segue here to some of the other things we're smelling on here that come from the winemaking process.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's aged in oak barrels or stainless steel or concrete, how you age it in there will impact what it turns out like. Oak, whether it's new or old, always lets a little more oxygen in.
Okay.
Because it's
sure.
a natural, product.
Yeah.
So it's going to let a little bit in and lets it breathe. And a lot of winemakers use oak. A lot of them use old oak though, because they don't want that toasted extra vanilla, cedar, dill kind of some of those
Okay.
coconut flavors come through very strongly on new oak. So winemakers will usually use oak that's been used many, many times and it has no toasty flavor to it anymore. It just has that kind of natural component for winemaking. Stainless steel is very popular still too. That really preserves the essence of the grape because it's not letting anything in or out. It's really just kind of holding it all in and letting it do its business in that contained space. Concrete is popular. Clay amphora too.
Didn't even know that was concrete. A thing. Okay.
Yeah, probably like the walls in the basement around here.
Okay.
These concrete walls. They're using those to make wines nowadays too. Kind of in between a stainless steel and an oak barrel.
Okay, interesting.
But
is that just because it's like they figured out, okay, we could use this too? I would imagine like there's only so much oak in the world. Like if everybody, I know like bourbon's getting really popular and bourbon is like, it needs to be like a French or white oak barrel single use thing. So they use it once and then they can't use it again.
I don't know if it's supply as opposed to cost. It's costly. Also just the maybe cleanliness and the ability to, how much work it takes to maintain them.
Sure.
Concrete I think they have other advantages and they're cool. So they're they naturally help keep things cool. It helps a lot. But there's some like vanilla notes to this a little bit. There's a little bit of creaminess. I don't know if you get that on the nose when you're smelling it. Just
see, now that you said vanilla, like I can pick it out. This is why it's fun to taste with other people because there's been so many times where I'm like, what is this? It's like a familiar, and it's like the hamster running on the wheel in your brain is trying to run real fast and try to figure out what it is, and somebody will say a word. I'm like, that's it.
That's why having a little party with friends, getting together, download a tasting wheel. I don't have one printed here. I have a different little note sheet, but there's tasting wheels that have really great guides of they categorize the fruits and everything. And you can all sit and you're like, no, that's what I get. Yeah. If you have it
those are great
in front of you,
yep.
It really helps you. But things like the creaminess that comes from malolactic conversion. So there's a lot of malic acid in wine. That's the tart acid that you get in apples.
Okay.
And if the winemaker lets it go through malolactic conversion, it converts the malic acid to lactic acid. And that imparts a little softer, creamier feel to it.
Okay.
I have a feeling this one probably did. When we taste it, we might get more of it in that.
Okay.
So those are just different styles that they can take.
To me, this kind of does smell like sometimes I describe this as, and I know this is not scientific, but like when I was little, we'd go up to like this resort in northern Minnesota. We'd swim out to this floating dock, like underneath the floating dock, which was metal. Like it had this smell. And it's like, oh, this beer has the metal floating dock smell.
Yep.
Well, it's like mineralic is like, if you want to be like scientific about it, but I'm like, oh, that sensory, that's where my mind goes.
There's definitely minerality on this one too.
Okay, yeah.
So that can come from the winemaking, from the grape, from aging. Sometimes intensifies those flavors. I do the same thing though with connecting memories. Sometimes I'll smell, especially on a red wine, I'm like, oh, it smells like my basement library in my parents' house growing up. Like they had all these books that have been there forever and it just had a distinct smell.
Yeah,
that kind of dusty book smell.
Are there specific aging requirements for wine? I know that for other beverages, like to qualify as bourbon, for instance, needs to be aged minimum like 4 years. Is that the same with wines, or will places, would that be a reason to blend different wines together because like, oh, we've aged this one batch like 5 years and it's not giving us what we want. It's got all these other things. But if we blend it with this 10-year one, we might kind of get to the sweet spot of what we're looking for.
Yeah, what you're describing is champagne. So that's exactly what they do in champagne. And it's one of the few areas in the wine world that they do blend different years.
Okay.
They do that in sherry and other fortified wines too. But champagne, they purposely, this is one of my lingo terms in my vocabulary, was vintage and non-vintage. So when you say vintage, that's the year. So this is a vintage wine. You declared the year. It says 2023 on the label. That's a vintage wine. Champagne is considered a non-vintage wine. Almost all champagne. Sometimes they will put a year on it, and that's rare. But it's because they have variation in weather, climate, style, and they let some age longer, and they blend them together to get a distinct finished product. Okay. And some of that's required. So Champagne region, very strict requirements of how long you have to age wine before you can sell it. Okay. Same with like Brunello, Brunello di Montalcino in the southern end of Tuscany. You can't sell it for 5 years. So when we were there, I was there in 2019, and they were describing how their 2015 was like one of the best ever, but they couldn't sell it to us. But they said, if you want to pre-order, we'll ship it to you in the beginning of 2020 when we can officially release it. So there's a lot of regions that have specific requirements. Not everybody, not every region, but usually the good producing regions in the world will set some standards to declare and put that label, put the name on the label. So to put Gavi on the label, I'm sure that they have some requirements that they had to follow, whether it was aging for 6 months, a year, or just certain standards to follow. Okay. But it's impossible to keep track of all of those.
Yeah, there's so much. Yeah. There's so much to know.
We should drink this wine.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, okay, we've
smelling it enough, then eventually you got to drink it.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So the first thing I always like to do is compare. Does it kind of taste like it smelled? A lot of times it will, but not always.
Yeah. Wow.
And if you're following a more standard tasting protocol, if you want to get like, I'll give you the basics of it.
Yeah.
You're tasting for things like acidity. How tart is it? Does it make your mouth water a lot? Sometimes if you tip your head forward just a little bit after you finish your first sip, you'll feel the saliva gushing forward or not. And that'll tell you, there's a lot of acidity or not. You're tasting for, is there any sweetness? A little bit? Is there body to it? Like, is it light body, medium, heavy bodied? Is it, how is the alcohol? Does it burn? Does it burn a lot when you swallow? Can you tell that it's there? Or does it feel like it's balanced with the rest of the wine?
That's a hallmark of the Invergrove region of wines.
High alcohol.
Yeah.
And then the finish, when you finish with it, does it linger? So a good wine that has good flavors, you want it to linger. You want to finish a sip and then just kind of let it sit there and be like, oh, that's still pleasant. A bad wine will linger and keep going. That's like Fireball. When I have a sip of Fireball, I think of like, I hate Fireball. Because like it sits with you forever. Yeah. And it's not a flavor I want to sit with me, but some people like it, and that's probably why they like it, because it sits with them forever. But this wine, you want to think about, does it have a nice finish to it? And do all those other components, do the flavors that come through, does it have the citrusy, the lemon? Does it have some complexity to it? Maybe if you think about it, does it have more other fruit flavors or minerality coming out?
It's very lemony, and I don't mean like sour, but like kind of very subtle. But it's bright, citrusy, maybe lemon, maybe like not super sweet orange. It's not heavy. No. Which I'm guessing is probably, is that more of a red wine thing, a heavier, or will...
No, you can get white wines definitely that are fuller bodied and heavier. It just white wines tend to have, they grow better in cooler places, which doesn't let them ripen and get as much sugar and alcohol concentration then when you make it. Like this one, the alcohol level is pretty reasonable, 12.5%.
Okay. Yeah.
Because alcohol contributes a lot to the body of the wine.
Sure.
So the feeling of it. Think of like a skim milk versus a whole milk. That's like light bodied to heavy bodied. This is probably more of a light to medium. I think there's some silkiness to it too.
Yeah. it's really smooth, and then it doesn't. When you were talking about, does it linger? It kind of goes away. So does that mean it's on the drier end of things?
That just means the finish is shorter.
Okay.
Yeah, the drier. So this is on my lingo list too, vocabulary, the dry versus sweet, because this is a big one that we get with customers when they come in to the store. I talk to people that are curious about wine. They're like, I don't want anything sweet. I don't want anything sweet. And I point them to the store. I'm like, almost everything we have in here is dry. But people that they try wine sometimes and they think that they're sweet, but they actually are just really fruity, or they're made from riper fruit, or the style of wine that they're looking for. They want something that's more lean. I think this I would say is tastes more dry. It doesn't taste juicy and ripe like a sweet juice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is almost like a Granny Smith apple kind of.
There's a lot of tartness to it. It's fresh and bright, but it's not like gushing like a sweet feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, if somebody comes in and says, I really want something definitely dry. I don't want anything sweet. I'd be like, this would be a good style for you.
Okay. And then if somebody was like, what food would I pair with this wine? It's on the lighter end of things. It's pretty bright. It's not heavy.
So the acidity and the brightness, first tell me that something palate cleansing. So that would be a great palate cleansing pairing. Also, I would think about where it's from. It's from Northern Italy. I think they're making creamier sauces there.
Yep.
So risottos, pastas.
Oh, yeah.
With a creamy sauce.
Yeah.
For sure. I think this could stand up to some, vegetable dishes too. Some of the acidity to it would go well.
Yeah.
But when you think of acidity, you think of tartness or not even tartness, but just the acidity in a wine. It helps your mouth water. It helps make food taste better, and it helps cleanse your palate.
Yeah. It's very good and very approachable for somebody like me who doesn't really necessarily drink a lot of wine. This is really good.
Yeah,
and I'm surprised to hear that, because you said, what was the price of this one?
$19.99.
$19.99. Mm-hmm. This is a good tasting wine for $19.99. Like, I would have. Maybe they should charge more. It's pretty yummy. Yeah. Okay. So an Italian wine that would go really well with a lot of different things that you might be serving. Mm-hmm. A good kind of like transition into a different dinner course if you're doing multiple courses. Or this would kind of just be nice to just like, it's summertime in Minnesota. You're up at the lake. You're sitting on your pontoon and you're just kind of coasting along. This would be a nice, like refreshing wine.
Agreed.
That you could dissect, or you could just be like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Let's have a chat, kind of a good thing.
Book club. I'd bring this to book club. It'd be great to share with folks you don't know what they like, but it'd be an easy pleasing wine.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this was the Via Sparina Gavi wine from Italy.
Yeah. And on that note, because the variation of availability is so great, shop to shop, I love to encourage people to just, maybe pick a region. So look at the Gavi region. And if you like this style, or maybe you want to try something that's similar, just look for that region. They're going to be stylistically pretty similar. And you can find it in most shops. You might not find this exact one in your neighborhood shop, wherever you are, but you could probably find a Gavi. Yeah.
So like if somebody really wanted this region, could they come in here and say, hey, could you put together a case or half a case of these so I could, take them home, and I'm having a book club and we want to have a fun variety of different wines.
Yep. Special order too. Maybe you went on a trip somewhere and you went through some region that was kind of obscure and we don't have much from there, but you visited a winery you liked. We'll see if we can get it. Sure.
Cool. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. That was very good. So that was a white wine. And I think that was really fun tasting and kind of like all of the things, kind of the checklist of how do you smell when you first take a sip. And I'm always wanting to let people know that you need to take more than one sip of something. Sometimes the first sip of a beverage could be a little jarring. So you got to come in for like the second sip, and then you can, I always tell people, don't judge something on the first sip. Like, because your palate is kind of becoming acquainted with it. The second, third sip, that's when you can kind of really start to nitpick and start to evaluate.
Yeah. And it's really hard to do in most people's lives, mine included. But if you can take just 5 minutes and just take a couple minutes to smell it beforehand will make such a difference with how much you experience it. But I'm guilty too. Be cooking dinner. I got stuff going on, and I know I want to drink some wine. I'll pop it open and I just pour it and drink it. I don't take the time to smell, but just a couple minutes. Walk away, plan ahead, open it an hour before you're going to drink it, and take a couple sips of it. It'll really help prime your senses.
Okay. Now, let's say somebody bought a case of this, and they cracked a bunch of bottles this summer. Really enjoyed it. And they had several bottles left in their cellar. And let's say they didn't get to them till 3 years from now. What would that do? Would it change the kind of specs of that wine? Or like when a wine is bottled, that's like it's going to kind of like keep those characteristics for a relatively long time. I mean, obviously you can't like age anything for 20 years and expect it to be like great. Or can you with wine?
Yeah, some you can.
Okay.
Most wine in the world is made to be drunk within a year that it's made.
Okay.
That's just the intent. That's how the styles are made. They're not made to age long term. And each grape ages differently. Some definitely reach their prime more quickly. If you do want to age them, some can age 50, 100 years. The Burgundies and Barolos of the world and Bordeaux's, like a lot of those are made to sit in cellars and age, and they get better over time.
Okay.
So that's the impact of oxygen and just sitting, and it's this living, breathing thing in the bottle. It's still evolving. Red wines will lighten in color. They'll get a little bit more brick tone to them.
Okay.
Kind of a brownish tone to them. That's the oxidization that's happening in them. They'll all intensify. So the flavors just intensify.
Okay.
Or some parts of it might mellow. So the tannins will mellow and integrate into the wine as the other fruit flavors start to intensify. And the fruit flavors tend to go from fresh fruit flavors. So it's easier in a red wine to think about like you might open a bottle of Grenache and it has a lot of strawberry flavors to it. It might be like more fresh strawberry or like a strawberry jam. And then you get to aging it and it's more like dried strawberries, candied strawberries.
Oh,
like
okay.
It has these, or even like prunes and figs, like those kinds of aromas to them and taste to them. That's how it evolves as it ages.
Okay.
This white wine, I don't know that I would age it much. It might a year or two. It would be
fresh.
fine.
Okay.
But it probably wouldn't get a whole lot better. It's when you have a really great wine that has these components. Blick. I know I mentioned this to you when we first talked a while back. Yeah, I gotta land the plane on this one. So Blick is a great acronym for anybody. If you walk away and you can't remember anything today, try to remember Blick. So B is for balance, L is for length, I is for intensity, and C is for complexity. So you can run through this pretty quickly in your head if you do it a couple times, and you smell, you take a couple sips, and you think, oh, were all the components of that wine in balance? It had a lot going on.
Yeah.
I don't have to name it. I don't have to analyze it all, but does it feel like all the different things were in balance? Yeah, all right, or maybe kind of. How about the length? Did it sit and finish, for a while on your palate? Did it continue to sit there and you were able to enjoy it for a minute or two? Maybe not so much. Okay. And then intensity, like were all the flavors, like did they have enough intensity to them that you could call it out, or was it more simple? Kind of opposite of intensity, I would say is more simple. And then complexity. If all the things that are happening and it had like the flavors, was it just citrusy? Or was it citrus and chamomile and flowers and whetstone and gravel, and like all these things? Did it have a lot going on? Was it very complex? If it hits all those markers and it hits them all well, that's an age-worthy wine.
Okay.
That's most likely an age-worthy wine. And it has enough acid and alcohol in it. Usually you need a little bit of those to make sure that it will stay stable and will help it evolve. So
now, if somebody is wanting to age a wine, I'm guessing cooler, dry, basement. If you've got in Minnesota, we're kind of lucky because basements stay pretty cool. But in that 55, 60 degree range,
that's
you don't want to
perfect.
just like throw it in the back of a cupboard.
Are you looking at the sign across the way? That's our closed cellar over there. It says temperature controlled. Keep this door closed at all times. The room is at 55 degrees. Yeah. 55 is kind of the magic number, but 55 to 60 is nice. dark, not direct light. A little light's fine, but you don't want
Okay.
something sitting in direct light that will damage it.
Right.
And it's on its side if it has a cork.
Right.
Only if it has a natural cork. If it has a synthetic or a screw cap, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But if it has a natural cork, you want to keep it from drying out and put it on its side.
Does whether or not it has a natural cork, will that affect the quality of the wine?
No.
Okay, because that was I have heard is like, oh, you don't want a screw top or anything because that means the wine is not as good.
Absolutely not. I think Italy was a holdout for a long time and didn't allow them, and now they're starting to allow them.
Okay.
Because they realize that it's smart, it's economical, it's convenient, and just let's do it. We're not selling these wines to age long term, and
Right.
we want to make it convenient, and so lots of screw top wines nowadays are perfectly fine. Okay, I'm going to try to hold the microphone and pop another bottle of wine.
Here, we'll get the sound effect.
Oh, yeah.
Hey-o. All right.
So I'm really excited to pour this one. You'd asked me to talk about any brands or kinds of wine to recommend for folks. And I know I hesitate to do that because the availability is so difficult.
Sure.
And the brand names that are out there that anyone could find anywhere are going to be mass produced. They're the things that anyone can find anywhere, and probably Total Wine kind of places or Costco. But this brand is one that I really fell in love with a couple of years ago, and I've met the winemaker a couple of times. He's been to our shop. He's done an event in the basement. It's Field Recordings. So Andrew Jones is the winemaker. They're based in Paso Robles. They source their fruit. They grow some direct, and they source some from other vineyards around the area. But they do it really thoughtfully, and he's making creative wines and like cool blends, some single varietals, but he makes a ton. The lineup is huge. If you look at Field Recordings' lineup of wines, they make this orange wine called Skins. It's just because it's made where the white wine sits with the skins of the white grapes, and it makes the wine orange.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's one of their big labels that most folks could find anywhere. They make some box wines, like high-end box wines that I'm a huge fan of.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
When I think of like boxed wine, I'm like, okay, is that going to be good just because of how it's served?
There's some really good ones out there, and I think there's some really bad ones too. So you talk to your shop and see if you can go in with some friends maybe to try it. But the other thing I love about Field Recordings is they're funny. they're
Super Nario.
Yeah.
And the label is bricks, like I'm guessing Super Mario Brothers, the video game.
Trademarked. They claim that they haven't been approached yet based on the labeling, but they have Super Nario, the original, right here, and then they also make Super Nario 2 and Super Nario 3.
Oh, fun.
For
Okay.
us folks of a certain age range that remember growing up playing all of those games. It's hilarious. And
That's
I love
awesome.
So this is one of theirs that they make in their lineup. And this is a red blend. They really like experimenting with Italian varietals. They feel they can grow those well in the California landscape. So this one's 70% Nebbiolo, 30% Barbera. It's going to be lighter in color. So if you tilt your glass and like hold it over your paper, you can kind of see you can see through it and see the writing on your paper there. It's like a medium color. You can still see the writing, but there's enough color there that it's not completely see-through.
Yeah.
Sometimes red wines can get real dark and you can't see through them at all.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, you might put a little chill on it because it is a little bit of a lighter style. It's a fresher. I just happen to know this, but they make these in a little fresher style.
Okay.
So I wouldn't age this one right off the bat. I can tell you this is not made to age. They're making fun, fresh, youthful wines that are just really delicious. And every one I've ever tried from them, I thought was like the quality was good. They were interesting. The price point matched with what you were getting. And so that's why I'm a big fan of their stuff.
Okay. And what's the price point on this
Super Nario?
Super Nario?
$22.99.
Okay.
So a couple bucks more. Again, California, they tend to get a little more expensive.
Yeah.
But let's take a smell on this one. Now we're getting into those red and black fruits.
Yeah. Such a different, so as I'm looking at Blick here, I'm not going to go in order.
Oh, we don't go to Blick until after we try it. Let's wait till we try it. So for now, just think about are you getting what kinds of fruits, what kinds of minerality, what kinds of floral, vegetal, any herbs, anything?
There's definitely, this is going to sound dumb. There's definitely fruit.
Yeah.
Hence.
But sometimes it smells fruity and sometimes it smells savory. That's kind of a big one to start with.
But there's also kind of
savory?
am I crazy? I might be having a stroke, but I'm smelling like baked slightly, like when you pull the pumpkin pie out of the oven on Thanksgiving and the crust has a little like darker, is not burned, but it's like just to the point of being like
toasted.
Toasted,
like a toasted note to it. Yeah. You're better at this than you think, Dan.
Okay.
You're way better at this than you think.
Because this smells like there's like a toasted element to this, and I'm guessing that's coming from the vessel that it was stored in.
I don't know for certain, but I would bet there's a little bit of influence of new oak on this. Not a lot, because I don't think we get a lot of other oak influence, but I get that toasty, like spice too. Do you get some spice?
Yeah. I'm
like
trying to figure.
Clove and
That's what. Yeah, because it's like crust. So like I'm thinking like a cookie, like a baking spice.
Yeah,
There's some toast, maybe some baking spice in here. And I was trying to I know there's it's like a jammy smell, like a jammy fruit, but I couldn't tell you like what specific fruit.
It's not super obvious either. It's could it be blackberry, cherry?
Yeah. But yeah, it smells
raspberry.
like kind of like a baked fruit pie of some kind.
Like a crumble, a fruit crumble.
Yes,
it totally does. That's a great description. Maybe a little like dusty flowers too, or like potpourri note to it.
Okay, yeah.
Make it a little bit of that in there.
Like my Grandma Mary's bathroom, but not.
So it's not going to be Super Mario, aka Grandma Mary's bathroom wine.
Yeah, kind of all those things are kind of coming into focus now.
Sometimes on red wines, especially from old world, more European, they can get some of this little funkiness to them. And more natural wines too in the U.S. that are making them, they get maybe some forest floor, some barnyard. They've like these, from the yeast that they're using and some of the particles that end up in the wine when they're making it. Something called Brettanomycin it can be a flaw, but sometimes they like a little bit of it. I think that's in beer too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a whole
Yeah. So you might find that I don't get that in this one, but I just wanted to point out that, especially in red wines, a lot of times those things come out.
Yeah. That's a great smell.
It smells amazing. Yeah. I'm going to try it. Do you swish it around a little bit?
Yeah.
Kind of all over.
Ever since last summer when I went to Louisville, Kentucky, and I was tasting bourbons, they're like, give it that Kentucky chew, kind of get it coated all over your mouth, and kind of you'll notice different things. It's just interesting, and I don't mean that in the like passive aggressive Minnesotan way, but how the flavor starts off and when it finishes, it's kind of like it kind of takes you on a little bit of a trip.
It totally does. There's a lot going on. Oh,
yeah.
Do you feel the tannin in this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of that. It's not astringent, but like that kind of like a little bit of a bittering thing. Yep. I kind of like when you eat a red grape, it starts off fruity, but if you then start chewing on the skin, it kind of gets that little more tart and kind of almost bitter, but not in a horrible way.
Yep.
That's how this. I mean, it starts off kind of fruity. And then kind of like by the end, it's dry and it's kind of sitting on the back of my tongue, kind of like it's still there. It's still lingering.
Yep. And even in your teeth, like it'll sit in the back of your teeth and it'll hit there a little. We joke sometimes when we drink or if we sample a lot of highly tannic wines, like, we'll be snacking on those tannins later. They kind of just sit and linger and sit there. But if they're well integrated or balanced with the rest of the components of the wine, they really add a lot. And tannins are especially helpful with food, especially with a little bit of fat.
Oh, sure.
That's where like really highly tannic and big wines go great with like fatty steak.
Yes.
Fatty meats.
Yep.
Stuff like that. And this one has Nebbiolo. It has a lot of Nebbiolo in it, which is mostly from northern Italy. Same region actually that the Scavi, the Piedmont region, is where a lot of Nebbiolo is grown. And Nebbiolo is notoriously one of the most tannic grapes.
Okay.
It's a very light grape and produces lighter wines with a lot of finesse to it, but a lot of tannin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still like
cool.
it's sitting there.
Yeah.
And just like yeah. So I was expecting, based on the aroma, for it to be very fruity. It's not necessarily that fruit forward, in my opinion.
No, I don't think so either. I think it has some dusty book components. It's got a little bit of that dusty basement book feel to it. It has some maybe aged fruit notes to it.
Well, and the first sip, I thought, wow, this is pretty tart. And now that tartness has dissipated a lot. But that's, it starts off like a little tart and kind of like smooths in. And then there's like a little bit of sweetness, like a little bit. And then it automatically kind of falls off the table onto that kind of like tannic, dry.
Savory, leathery.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a leathery note to it at the end. Yeah.
That's really good. And so different from the first one.
Yeah. Yeah. So how would you follow your Blick on that one?
Okay. So I think it is pretty balanced.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the length, as far as like lingering on the palate, is medium to maybe medium well, because it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think intensity, when you're factoring in the flavors, I would say like aroma plus the flavoring, like the impact on the palate is like medium to medium high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then complexity, I think I would say it's pretty complex, but that's just me. So when you are thinking about complexity on the Blick scale, are you factoring in aroma as well, or is this just for flavor?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely factoring in everything. Yep.
Yeah, because I thought like the smells, the aroma had so much different thing, from like kind of like some of those baking spices to the fruit to the wood, and then in the flavor you bring in like that little bit of fruity, that tart fruit, and then sweet fruit, and then you go right into dryness, a little bit of that leathery flavor. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's pretty complex.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
Okay.
I think it's a great wine. I think it's a great value. So I think about like, how is it on that scale? And then what's the price? And if it hits a lot of those on the Blick scale and it's a pretty reasonable price, I'm like, boom.
Kind of a home run.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this, and again, with food, this would go well with a steak, or like if you were doing like a stew or a burger, something like that. I don't know that this would probably completely overshadow like a piece of white fish.
Yeah.
So that might be not what you want to do, but like this could hold up to some big flavors.
Yep. Something with mushrooms. Nebulose.
Oh yeah.
Mushrooms.
Yeah.
Which can be hard to pair, but I think this would be good. Yeah, this would be great. Italian wines. This is not Italian wine, but the varietals are. They're known for being really food friendly and lots of foods. And that's what we'll take in maybe our next podcast, is more about foods. But the secret is that most wines pair with so many things.
Yeah.
There's really no secret pairings that are perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So to recap.
Yeah.
When it comes to wine, find a knowledgeable, independently owned liquor store, preferably Thomas Liquors. You don't have to. I mean, if you don't live in St. Paul, you can still come here. They will not turn you away, despite the fact that they are a long-standing St. Paul institution. But find your local place, get to know the people there, ask questions, go for, if they're doing tastings, kind of start to get to know them there. And then once you're kind of in the door and you feel comfortable asking questions, then, start to think about price point. Try to, if you're initially dipping your toe in the pool, $20 to $25 to $30 range will get you something very good for your value. And I think that's where the tasting part, zero in on what your palate likes, and, again, what the occasion is, and go on from there. And then when you're thinking about like regions, you got old world versus new world, and there's some really good new world places to check out in Washington State, Oregon, and then you can't go wrong with some of the California wines, California regions, and then Old World, obviously. I mean, there's everything.
Everywhere.
Australia, Italy, France, Turkey, all sorts of different things. And then when you're tasting, remember, carve out some time, especially if you really want to nerd out. You know, open it, you said about an hour before you're going to drink it, kind of let it breathe.
Yeah, if you can. Or just sample it an hour before because you're going to get too busy by the time you're ready to pour it.
Right, yeah. So allow yourself to kind of smell it, kind of go through, and then taste, and then you get into Blick. Balance, length, intensity, and complexity.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
And then don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yes. Talk about it.
This has been great. I hope we can do this again because I think we've barely scratched the surface. But I think hopefully for our listeners, this is going to help kind of make wine a lot more accessible, demystify some of the things, and also kind of like break the stereotype that wine is only for people with monocles and bow ties. Nicole, thank you so much for having me today. This has been really fun.
My pleasure.
So this has been another on-location episode of A One Pint Stand here at Thomas Liquors with Nicole Collins-Kwong, and we were talking about wine. Cheers. Oh, let's get a wine clink.
Cheers.
Whoa. All
Perfect.
Right. I know that wine can be quite intimidating. What I enjoy about Nicole Collins-Kwong is that she makes a lot of the knowledge she has about wine accessible to everybody. I thought the information about wine regions, understanding different price points, and how to evaluate and taste wine was all incredibly helpful. I found myself coming up with so many other questions while we were chatting, but I didn't want to make it a 9-hour podcast. So we're just going to have other episodes about wine, which is a win for everybody. Or is it a wine for everybody? Wah, wah. I think that the next episode we do about wine is probably going to center on pairing wine with food, since that seemed to come up a lot in our conversation and is definitely something that I'm very interested in. So I want to thank Nicole for her time and expertise. I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. Now, I want to give a special thank you to Brad Ashton, Marcus Dodson, Chuck Dorsey, Vicky Epper, Daniel Fisher, Todd Fitzloff, Laura Fleischfresser, Matt Holton, Cable Lefto, Dave Long, Ben Michaels, Brent Newman, Bree Smith, Jesse Storms, Sarah Cry-Valento, and Brian Wu for being Kegstander level supporters of the One Pint Stand Patreon. You've all shown incredible generosity, and I'm grateful for it. Cheers to you all. Now, before I go, I want to give a huge thanks again to the sponsor for this podcast, First Draft Tap Solutions. Whether you need someone reliable to clean your lines, or you need to install a new draft system or give technical support, Brett Erickson at First Draft Tap Solutions is your guy. You can email him at firstdrafttapsolutions@gmail.com or give him a call at 612-839-5304 if you need some quality assistance. With that, this has been another episode of A One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast where the pants stay on, but the caps come off. Cheers.
We got through the sampling. Everyone takes their notes, by themselves. And you come back together to talk about them and reveal. And somebody revealed, sure enough, they brought the Kirkland Prosecco, $7.99.
Interesting.
From Costco. And up until that point, I had secretly been buying that, and I would not admit it to anybody.